Good morning. Welcome to Coffee with a Cop. I'm Chief Pete Wingert. Today we have a special presenter from the Arizona Attorney General's Office, Marley Ethelbaum. She's going to present on elder abuse. June is Elder Abuse Awareness Month, and June 5th, I hope I'm not stealing too much, June 15th is Elder Awareness Day. So just a opportunity for the community to get involved in what's going on with elder abuse. Marley, I'll let you take it over.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Like you said, my name is Marley. I'm from the Arizona Attorney General's Office. I work in community outreach and education. The biggest part of my job is to educate communities all over Arizona about things that affect Arizonans. Unfortunately, one of those things is going to be senior abuse, along with things like consumer scams. We all get those horrible calls every other week. I'll go ahead and dive into that a bit later. But like I said, today's presentation is mostly about educating everyone. And don't feel like you have to leave this presentation knowing absolutely everything, because I'm going to throw a lot at you. You can go to our website, and I'll provide that at the end, where this presentation is pre-recorded. We have an entire webpage dedicated to the Task Force Against Senior Abuse, which is located through our office. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. If you don't know already, this is Attorney General Mark Brnovich. I had a video for you, but I think I want to skip that so we can get to all of the good information in between.
Hello, I'm Attorney General.
And goodbye, exactly. So if you didn't know it already, the Attorney General's Office has the Task Force Against Senior Abuse. And this is a coalition of both private and public agencies, such as APS, Area Agency on Aging, Access, things like that. And the main goal of this task force is to find issues that are impacting seniors within Arizona and then finding solutions for them. The task force also created the Task Force Against Senior Abuse helpline, and the helpline is mainly a one-stop shop for any issues you might be having. So if you were to call the Task Force Against Senior Abuse helpline and you're having an issue with maybe a senior being physically abused, that's not handled by our office, but then we would refer you out to APS or a local PD agency. Our goal is mostly to make sure you don't have to bounce around a lot. Come to us, okay, we see what the issue is. We're going to refer you to the best possible agency to help solve the issue you are facing. The main goal of our presentation today is to talk about what those agencies are, what senior abuse looks like, some warning signs to look out for, and then also I'll go ahead and answer any questions you might have at the end. So TASA's mission statement is to establish a direct line of communication to the Attorney General's Office. So if you are having an issue that does fall within our jurisdiction, then that means that it'll be handed off to within our agency right away, and hopefully that issue is going to be resolved through us. Now, the only way that we would interact with another police agency or even with APS is if it started with us financially, and then we take the lead on that case and then involve other agencies to help out and to find a resolution. I'm going to talk about the two most prominent agencies we do work with very frequently. The first one is going to be Area Agency on Aging. Now, I personally help answer the Task Force Against Senior Abuse helpline, and I refer people to this agency all the time. Because with us, we deal with financial exploitation. If we refer it to APS, they deal with maybe abuse, neglect, things like that. But when it comes to delivering social services and going just like the extra step, that's where Area Agency on Aging comes in. And they don't only help seniors, they help vulnerable adults in general. This even includes people who have HIV, AIDS, and then also assists with caregivers. If you have a senior in your life, or if you are that senior in your life, I highly recommend putting this number in your phone, just because they're the best place to go to if you are having any type of issue that needs that social service aspect with it. And they do have a 24-hour senior helpline, so you can call anytime you need to. The second is going to be adult protective services. Now, adult protective services will review the following types of cases: physical, psychological, cognitive, and functional status of the person who's being abused, the living environment, support system, strengths of that individual, and any type of abuse that is happening to them. Now, I highly recommend you also put this number in your phone, just in case you do come across a senior who might be being abused. You can report it, and then afterwards you can always follow up and see what the status of that report is. All right, now we're going to get into the different types of abuse. And you can see it's all kind of laid out right here: physical, emotional, sexual, financial, and neglect. I do want to add in right here that at the AG's office, we mostly focus on financial, and that's just kind of where our purview goes. But I don't want you to think that you can't call the Task Force Against Senior Abuse helpline, because if you call us, it's financial to stay in our office. But if it's anything else, it will go to the appropriate authorities. I do also want to say that we can't open a case for you, but we can get you to the correct people who can do that. So starting with physical abuse, unfortunately, we've all heard those stories of maybe there's a healthcare facility where a senior is being abused, and it'll kind of fall into this category. Some warning signs of physical abuse, there are going to be a lot. It's going to start with unexplained injuries like bruises, welts, sores, cuts. There might be an injury that hasn't been cared for properly. Like maybe they had an incision done, but maybe it starts getting kind of icky and gross and nobody's taking care of it. That's going to be a sign of abuse. Dehydration, malnutrition, confusion or disorientation, and hesitation to talk openly. Like with any type of abuse case, if their abuser is within the facility or within the home, obviously they're not going to want to talk about it or talk openly about it. And it's surprising how often embarrassment plays a role in this as well. They don't want their family members to know that this is happening. So unfortunately, we do have to rely a lot on the warning signs they may exhibit. Now, emotional abuse. Now, when it comes to things like physical abuse, it's easy to see with your eyes, but with emotional abuse, it's very difficult to kind of see what's happening and also very difficult to prosecute. Emotional abuse is going to be the mental pain, anguish, or distress through verbal or even non-verbal acts, such as name calling, insulting, ignoring. Now, the warning signs for this are going to be a lack of eye contact. They're anxious to please. And if you do work with seniors, or like I said, if you are the senior in your life and you notice somebody who is always really boisterous, they were always making jokes, making everybody laugh, they were very outgoing, but then all of a sudden they start regressing and they're not talking so much, they're not really involved, that's a sign something is going on, and it could potentially be emotional abuse. Eating disorders, depression, low self-esteem, and then fear of speaking openly in front of a particular person. Like I said, unfortunately, what we're going to see in this presentation is that half of abusers are going to be people that they don't know, but the other half are going to be people they do know, like loved ones, caregivers, powers of attorney, things like that. All right, going on into sexual abuse. I don't know if you've heard about this, about the Hacienda healthcare issue that happened a couple of years ago. I see some heads nodding. I do want to mention that APS doesn't only deal with seniors, it's any type of vulnerable adult. And the Hacienda situation was that there was a non-ambulatory female who had become pregnant and nobody knew what had happened. So they DNA tested all the caregivers on staff, and that's how they found the man that was responsible for sexually abusing that victim. Some warning signs are going to be unexplained depression, fear, or paranoia. Unfortunately, in this woman's situation, she wasn't able to display any of that. But in a case they are, really look for these signs: discomfort, anxiety, withdrawn, vague or illogical explanation of injuries, or even unexplained infections or STDs. I'm now going on into financial abuse. This is what we would handle at the Attorney General's office. This will be the illegal or improper use of an incapacitated or vulnerable adult or his or her financial resources for another's profit or advantage. Sadly, when I do answer calls at the Task Force Against Senior Abuse Helpline, I get a lot of calls from family members saying, hey, my mom, I think, is being financially abused by my sister, who is her power of attorney. They're spending money on things that they shouldn't be spending money on. What do I do? And it's sad because I often have to refer them to a private attorney because those things are really difficult to prove. If this is your situation, I highly recommend keeping all evidence and then reporting it to our line anyway. Some examples and warning signs of this situation happening are they're accompanied by a person encouraging them to withdraw large amounts of cash or seems to coerce them into making transactions. Or maybe the elder is making withdrawals and transactions that they're not even aware of a couple of days ago. You're like, hey mom, hey friend, hey sister, you just did this. Do you remember why you did this? Oh no, I don't think so. I don't think I did that. Another example is if you know that adult isn't capable of maybe even writing anymore, and all of a sudden there's this whole new will drafted up with their signature on everything, that's going to be a major indicator that something's going wrong here. Also, switching from one bank to another keeps the money moving, so things aren't easy to keep track of. Neglect. This is going to be one that falls within APS's purview. Some warning signs of an adult being neglected are they may seem detached, unresponsive, or helpless. You could imagine if you're in a home where nobody's listening to you, nobody's helping you, your voice kind of gets a little bit lower. It's not as big as it once was. They might even have bed sores, or they're not kept, or they have a bodily odor because they're not being moved enough. Soiled or even urine-soaked bedding, unsanitary, unsafe conditions, or improper use of medication. Maybe you have a friend that you go and visit and they're usually alert and good to go, but the next time you visit, it's like you're visiting a zombie. That could be a sign of them being overly medicated, just to keep them chill. Now I'm going to throw some statistics at you. This first one makes me really sad. Only 4% of cases will be reported. And I kind of want you to put yourself in the mind of that senior who doesn't want to report. If you have somebody who is an abuser within your household, that's one thing. I don't want to get them angry and then make them want to retaliate. Also fear, also embarrassment. I don't want to have to tell my kids that this is happening and get them involved in my situation. 1.7 billion was lost to elders through financial scams in 2017, and the numbers just keep ticking up. It's really interesting because usually younger generation, 20s, 30s, will fall victims to scams most often, but seniors are often taken for the most money because they've had time to accumulate it over 20, 30, 40 plus years. The average loss is going to be $34,000. And like I said earlier, about half of the perpetrators are strangers, but it makes me very, very sad because the other half are going to be people they know, family members, healthcare workers, caregivers, things like that. I do want to mention when it comes to the average loss, I don't know if you heard it, it was in the news a couple of days ago. In Prescott, there was a woman who was 70 years old, a widower. She had fallen victim to a romance scam and was taken for almost $1 million. And you may not know this, but romance scams are really ticking up high in regards to that being the scam hitting seniors the most often. Domestic abuse. You might recognize the power and control wheel that's up here. And the reason why we put it up here is that abusers will usually display the same type of characteristics to keep control of their victims. So when it comes to things like using emotional abuse, putting people down, that's going to be the emotional abuse we just talked about. Using intimidation and force, physical abuse. So when you take a look at this power and control wheel, you'll notice that a lot of this stuff applies to senior abuse as well. I do want to mention we also put it in our human trafficking presentation. And when we go and give this presentation to students, 8th grade and up, we really try to hit home with this power and control wheel because a lot of them don't understand what a healthy relationship looks like yet. So we say, okay, this is what a healthy relationship is. Definitely not. Not many of you might know this, but the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit does exist within our office. And I really need to take a look at my notes really quickly because it just happened. But let's see. Last year, at the end of 2021, there were 13 individuals and 14 businesses that were indicted for fraudulently billing for medical services that weren't used, or for higher level services that were done, or they were billing for people who were deceased. And the numbers are actually staggering. They billed for millions of dollars in fraud. So some common examples of fraud may include billing for unnecessary services or double billing. So if you are using Medicaid, really take a look at your records and make sure nothing is being done wrongly in your name. And if you are afraid that a facility or an individual that you're working with is committing fraud, you can always call them directly at this number below. And like I said, you don't have to remember all this information I'm telling you. This is all available on our website, and I'm happy to mail out this PDF to anybody who would like it. All right, now criminal fraud. Some examples of criminal fraud will include Ponzi schemes, telemarketing schemes, contractor home repair fraud. We have an entire unit dedicated to criminal fraud. So like I said, if you have any issues, maybe your home is being recently renovated and maybe 2 weeks after you pay for that large amount of service that was done, you're like, oh, things are falling apart. This doesn't look right. You can always call us and then we'll get you to the right people. And by us, I mean the TASA hotline. All right, now the money mule. By show of hands, has anybody watched The Mule with Clint Eastwood? Yeah, that's basically what this is. And if you don't know what a money mule is, basically a criminal will reach out to a vulnerable adult and say, hey, do you mind moving this money for me? I'll give you $2,000 in reward. I just need to get it from here to there. And if that person is incapacitated in any way, they might think, oh, that's a great way to make a little bit extra money. In the Mule's case, he wanted to buy a home for himself, help his daughter through school. So you can see where it gets a little bit sticky. Unfortunately, this is a situation where somebody who is unaware might actually turn into a criminal. In the Mule's case, he was maybe 70 plus years old, but still had to face jail time because we can't just be like, oh, that's okay, I understand. Unfortunately, it still is a crime. There are going to be a lot of red flags when it comes to a money mule situation. The person may be asked to open an entirely separate bank account in their name to move that money, or they're asked to process funds, transfer funds, or even wire funds through their name. I do want to mention really quickly right now that cryptocurrency scams are becoming a huge thing. I don't know if you saw it, but like in 7-Eleven, Circle K's, there are cryptocurrency ATMs. So what scammers are doing is they're calling seniors and they're saying, hey, you didn't pay X, Y, and Z, go to this cryptocurrency ATM and wire the money right now. And unfortunately, it's nearly impossible to get that money back. All right, consumer protection and advocacy. This is going to be another call we get a lot at the Task Force Against Senior Abuse Helpline. And this revolves around scams. Like I mentioned earlier, we all get those horrible phone calls. I get phone calls from Marriott hotels at least once a week telling me I got a free 3-day staycation. And I want to click, yes, I want that. I deserve a vacation. But I've never signed up for Marriott hotels. I've never been there. How would they know my information? So unfortunately, scammers, they know they're gonna get a reaction out of you if they play on your emotions. Fear, the grandparent scam. Hi, grandma, hi, grandpa. I'm in the police station right now and they're saying that I need to pay a bunch of money, but don't tell my parents or else I'm gonna get in a lot of trouble. If your granddaughter or grandchild is calling you that afraid, it's gonna elicit a reaction. And then also excitement. Publishers Clearinghouse just said that you won $20,000. Great, but you never signed up to win any type of contest. Unfortunately, the old adage, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is gonna play a part of all of this. And always just take a step back, take a breath, don't respond in the moment, do some research and then call back later. Like I said a little earlier, online dating and romance scams are gonna be a huge issue with the senior community and it just keeps rising. Some ways to get around this are, I don't know if you know this already, but if you Google my name right now, Marley Ethelbaugh, you can see everything I did in the past 10 years. Thankfully, they're all good things. But I highly recommend if you have a friend or if you are that senior and you want to get involved romantically with somebody, do a little background research. And if they start professing strong feelings right away or asking for favors right away, that's going to be a huge warning sign. Unfortunately, I had a call from a gentleman a couple of months ago and recently lost his wife, was getting back out there, had gotten a relationship with a woman, and it went on for a year. At the end of the year, she said, oh my gosh, I was just in this horrible accident. I can't afford to pay my medical bills. Can you send me money? Yeah, I can do that. $1,000. Oh, I'm on my way to see you. I'm so excited, but Border Patrol has me at the airport and they're not going to let me go. Can you give me money? $2,000? Oh no, they're still not letting me go. Can you send me more? And that's when it clicked. Then he realized this might not be a legitimate person and it wasn't. Unfortunately, he paid through gift cards and gift cards are like cash. As soon as you let it go, poof, it's kind of gone. So the reason why I bring this up is if you do have anybody in your life that's going online, doing these, getting involved with somebody online, just help them do a little background research first. Prevention. When it comes to these scams, there's a lot you can do. Never sign blank checks. Please, if you're paying for any type of service, pay with a credit card first. If you pay with a debit card, that money moves and it's gone. Versus a credit card, that money moves a little bit slower, like you have to pay your credit card statement. So it's a little bit easier to get your money back. For those annoying calls that you get all the time, you can always place your name on the do not call registry. There is a catch to this. People who break the law aren't going to pay attention to it. But people who are legitimate businesses will stop calling. This doesn't apply to those election calls we're going to be getting very soon though. Please remember, if it sounds too good, it probably is. And remember, you can always hang up if it sounds weird. And remember, you don't have to answer. Let it go to voicemail. Anybody who really wants to get in touch with you will leave their name and number and a message. In my younger sister's case, she leaves a very colorful message every single time. Avoid wiring money or giving out bank account information. And please remember, it's easier to avoid a problem now than to try to fix it a little later. When it comes to reporting abuse, Adult Protective Services is going to be the #1 place to go. As far as physical abuse, emotional, neglect, sexual, that's the place to go. If it comes to financial abuse, you can always get in touch with our office or call the Task Force Against Senior Abuse Helpline. I do want to mention, if it's an emergency situation, please call 911. The TASA line, we will answer it within 1 to 2 days. It's not a live line. So if it's an emergency situation, please reach out to local PD. We do have a couple of success stories through the Task Force Against Senior Abuse Helpline. So this is a long story about Miss Moreno. Miss Moreno was an elderly lady who was at a healthcare facility, and her son noticed things were looking weird. She had bed sores, welts, bruises, and just unexplainable contusions everywhere. And the healthcare facility wasn't being up forward about what was going on. So he put a nanny cam inside of her room. As soon as he saw abuse being perpetrated by those healthcare facility workers, he called the TASA Abuse Helpline. Within a few hours, our office was mobilizing local PD, and then they were able to provide help to that lady, and then also provide assistance to other people in that healthcare facility as well. Some other things to say about TASA is that we've had major strides in legislation and making life a little bit easier, hopefully, for seniors. The first is that we do provide advanced directives, so end-of-life care planning documents free of charge to the public. If you are all interested in this, it's on our website. You can call me, ask me for it, happy to provide it. And I don't know about you, but I've been to an attorney before, and drafting up any type of legal document is going to cost a pretty penny. We offer it for free. The Task Force Against Senior Abuse Helpline is going to be 602-542-2124. And this is the email address. You can email us at any time. I personally answer this. My coworkers who are well informed about this whole entire presentation answer this. So if you're at all curious about what we do, or you need any extra help, call, email anytime you'd like. Thank you so much for your attendance today. I hope I provided you with helpful information and didn't freak you out too much. But if you do have any questions, I'm happy to answer them at this time. It is a bit early for me too. I don't know if it is for you. But I did bring some materials for you to take home. You can ask for my card, happy to provide it. And other than that, hand it over to you.
Marley, it's traditional in law enforcement that when you do a great job with something, we give you a challenge when we recognize that in some way. So for your work today, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm thankful that you have come out today and joined us. I want to recognize a couple of people in the room. Mayor Jerry Van Wilner, Vice Mayor Anna Thomason, and our ACOPS representative and council member, Mark Stanton. There is plenty of coffee in the back. I have the best and happiest team in blue over in the corner where they're hiding very well, but they will do anything to get out of their shell. That's what they're looking forward to. I know that. So if you have a couple of minutes, have another cup of coffee with us. Get to know one of the officers that works in your area and ask any questions, and we'd be more than happy to answer them. I do want to, this is on my heart a little bit, do want to talk about drowning prevention. You know, the kids are out of school. We've had 4 near drownings in Paradise Valley in the past 6 months, and it is really important to watch your grandkids, your kids, your adult kids, your spouse, your significant other around water. It is, if you're having a birthday party, consider hiring a lifeguard because you get distracted. So it's very important. Get somebody there that's going to be solely dedicated on that water and making sure that kids stay above water. You know, we've lost 2 kids in the last 24 hours in Arizona to drowning deaths, a 13-year-old and a 2-year-old, a 2-year-old yesterday, a 13-year-old over the weekend. So drowning prevention, keep an eye on kids around water, just really important. It is an epidemic proportions in Arizona just because the number of swimming pools. So please, yes, ma'am.
Chief, when Officer McGee does the home security review, does he include pool safety as part of that?
Some, but you know, not a whole lot. So yeah, you know, the biggest things, two big things you can do, fence your pool. So there's some kind of barrier around the pool, and then alarm your pool gates so that it gives you some kind of signal. That they're even Bluetooth adaptable now, so it'll send you on your phone notice that the gate has been opened, so that you're more attuned to what's going on back there.
Have we had any elder abuse calls in Paradise Valley?
Yeah.
What type do we?
You know, typically it's the financial, but it's not. We don't miss out on the other ones as well, but typically it's the financial side of it. Yes, ma'am.
In our neighborhood, backing up to mountains, to rocks and mountains, which we probably all do, people are concerned about the coyotes following after them. And I've heard my husband drove someone home the other day who was paranoid because that she walked a little faster and the coyote went faster after her. Have we had any issues of actual attacks?
No, you know, occasionally a small dog will end up missing. You know, a couple of things that I've had success with, and I don't know that this is perfect, but I'm still in one piece. Of course, I'm a little larger, and I don't have any scars from coyotes on my shins or ankles. One, be big, be bold, and be loud. Those would be a couple of things that I would suggest. I know that when we get scared, we get quiet, but if you're forceful, it's the same thing with, you know, that victim mentality. If you have a person, I would do the same thing. Be bold, be big, and be loud, because you're going to draw attention to yourself. Somebody might come and help you, and you know it might scare the perpetrator, whether it be a coyote or a person, back.
What about the people climbing the mountain? You know, we see these rescues, the helicopters flying over. Are they going to be closing the trail at, say, 10 o'clock in the morning and not let people up? Or
great question. The city of Phoenix has Camelback Mountain. They have a policy in effect that they're going to close it when the heat gets hot enough. so they've made that determination, and they'll close it at the base at that time. I can't remember if it's 100, 105, or 110, but I know if there's a heat warning on it, and they'll just shut the trail down at that point.
not that I'm going to do it.
All right, enjoy the coffee. Thank you so much for coming today.